Hey everyone, it's Tara, the host of the Be Who You Came to Be podcast, and I'm on here with a confession. A confession about something that you're going to hear here in just a few seconds. So, I am about to share with you the first episode of the solo podcast, where it's just me talking to you, helping you level up your authenticity to be who you came to be. And you're going to hear me say the very first episode, the debut episode, and I talk about it. And let me tell you what happened. It came time to launch the podcast, and my own imposter syndrome set in like a mofo of like, what am I doing? Can I hold it on my own? The first episode, just was the show good? Did I like it? And so my own fears and my own imposter syndrome said, I need Heather on the first show. And I got to tell you, I actually loved the decision of launching with her because she's so brilliant. If you have not had a chance to listen to my conversation with Heather White, go back and listen to it. It is gold. Like, I have listened to it over and over and over, and I learn something new every time. And almost every time I also get moved to tears thinking about the stuff that she said and how it resonated with me. So I went back after the show launch and listened to this episode, and I was like, okay, you know what? It's good. I like it. I'm proud of it, and I want to share it with you. So you're going to hear me say the first episode, blah, blah. It's the second. And what are the takeaways from this? One, we all get imposter syndrome. It's normal. It's easy to play small and to worry about what other people will think of us. And there's always safety in numbers. This is the truth, right? Nobody likes to go to a party alone. Nobody likes to show. We like to have a wingman. And if you're going to have a wingman in life, Heather White is definitely the wingman that you want to have. But it's also about owning it and showing up and being vulnerable enough to say, like, here's how I'm feeling. This is why this is what it is. And once I listened to it, I realized, like, I don't want to re-record this. You know what? I'm just going to be honest with you guys. So anyway, here is the first solo podcast, YouTube show of the Be Who You Came to Be show. I hope it brings you one step closer to who you are, your authentic self, and gives you the courage and the confidence to shine your light this next week. Thank you again for being with me. Let's get this show on the road. You're here exactly where you're supposed to be, listening to the very first show, the first episode of the Be Who You Came to Be podcast and show. I'm Tara Renze, your host, and I am so excited you're here, so honored that you're here, so humbled that you're taking time out of your day to get inspired with me and get closer to that person that you came to be. Today, on the first episode, it would only make sense if we talked about what does it truly mean to be who you came to be, to live unapologetically authentic to exactly that person that you're here, that you were put on earth to be. Because let's face it, it's easier said than done. Authenticity is a huge buzzword in 2025. Everyone's talking about it. Live authentically, be you. I'm the only one who's saying be who you came to be, but let's take a step back. And I got to tell you how the story originated. How did I get to where I'm at? And why on earth did I decide to launch a podcast and a show? So I'm so honored. We're going to go ahead and dive right into the show, talking about authenticity. Most importantly, what it truly means to be who you came to be. So let's take a step back. Almost 20 years. Almost 20 years ago, I was inspired by a note. And what's wild is this note that I was inspired by. It was a letter that wasn't even written to me. It was written to my newborn son. I had my first child, my first baby boy, who happened to be the first great grandchild on either side of my family, but on my dad's side of the family specifically. So it was my 87-year-old grandmother who had this gift for penmanship. She loved to write letters. It wasn't uncommon that she wrote me almost a letter every week, just about life and what was going on. And there were always these nuggets and words of wisdom in it. But this letter was different because she didn't write it to me. She wrote it to Ben, my newborn baby. I was about a week out of the hospital. I was at home. I was sitting in this chair. It happened to be this really actually ugly chair. Do any of your husbands, I mean, let's face it, it's the husbands who they are in love with these really ugly recliners. He had this brown leather recliner. It was tragic. It looked like something that like a smoker would have, and like you drink and smoke in this big leather chair. But he kept it around, and you know what? For the first time in my life, I was like super grateful that he kept the ugly brown tragic recliner because I had had a very complicated C-section. Ben and I had been in the hospital for over a week. That's another story for another day. Let's get back to the note. I digress. Rabbit holes. We're going to be down them often, here and there on the show. It's just part of my personality and who I am. But I was on this tragically ugly chair, and Scott comes in. Scott's my husband, and he's like, "Hey, I got a note here. I got a letter, a mail." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, bring it over." He's like, "It's from Dot." And I go, "Oh my gosh, can't wait." And he's like, "Well, it's not for you. It's for Ben." And literally, without even reading the letter, my eyes swelled with tears. I was holding the baby, and here's a letter. She put it on this beautiful powder blue stationery, which was so fitting for her first great grandchild. She gave it the thought of like, I'm going to put it on powder blue stationery, baby blue. And I opened the letter and I read it out loud. And it read almost like a little love letter. Like it was so charming and sweet. And she had said, I have dreamt, for 9 months about you and what you would look like and what you would be. And never in a million years did I imagine such a beautiful baby. Imagine being 87, you have a great grandchild. But it was the last two sentences that she wrote that completely changed the trajectory of my life. And honestly, you're here, you're listening today, they're going to change the trajectory of your life too. She wrote, be who you came to be. Love will guide you. That was her advice. That was her advice for a newborn baby that she knew. She was 87. She knew she wasn't going to be around. Wasn't in great health when she wrote the letter. She knew that she wasn't going to be around to watch him grow old and grow up. So what was her life's advice? Just be who you came to be. She could have written a lot of things. She could have said, be bold, be a leader, be inspiring, be strong, be tough. No, she didn't need to say that because everything, all the best qualities in him, his gifts, talents, authenticities, passions, and purpose, they are all right there, all right inside his little 9 pound baby body. But he was going to have to be willing to go all in on him. He was going to have to be willing to discover who he was and who he came to be. And it was also, it was like a mission for me as the mom. Not only did I get great advice of like who I came to be. We're going to talk about when the letter really sat in with me in just a minute, but as a mom, I read the letter and I realized it was my responsibility to help him, to nurture him, to be who he came to be. Now, if you're a mom or a parent and you're listening to this, or you know that we have these children and we love them so much, and we do have aspirations for them. We want them to be certain things and accomplish certain things, and we obviously would love it if they shared some of our passions and purpose. But as a mom, I really learned this lesson of what does be who you came to be mean? It's not about raising this boy, my son, to be who I wanted him to be who his dad wanted him to be who the world maybe, like other people influences wanted him to be. It was about helping him discover his unique authenticities, his gifts, his talents, his purpose, his strengths, his weaknesses. How could he own that? How could he learn from that? How could he continue to level up and to grow into exactly who he came to be? And so as a mom, got with this guiding light, it really helped me from a parenting standpoint of like, how do I help this child be who he came to be? And I think that has, not that I'm like patting myself on the back of being a great mom, but I think I'm a great mom. I have an amazing relationship with my boys. My son Ben is 17, Jack is 15, and both of them, I can tell you, are authentically being who they came to be. And do they drive me nuts? Yes. Oh my Lord, they drive me nuts. Do I love them wholeheartedly? And are they the joy of my life? 100%. And so, this notion of being who you came to be, when we think of it as how do we help our children be who they came to be, it's a pretty easy concept to start wrapping your head around, right? But what about how do you help yourself be who you came to be? Because here's what happens in life. If you're anything like me, you go through life with a lot of advice. People, yes, maybe they're helping shape you to be who they came to be. And I know some of you are listening and being like, you know what? My mom and dad wanted me to be who they wanted me to be. Like they weren't really helping me be who I came to be. And but you get a lot of advice. Do this, don't do that. We go through a lot of discovery. We're allowed failures, all these things. And I joke up until like out like mid 20s. You get a lot of advice like go get a higher education, go get certified in something, start a career, start making money, maybe find a partner, get married, settle down, buy a house, have some kids. Then what? then what? You know? And when I rediscovered the letter was about 2 years after Ben was born. In total transparency, I read the letter, loved it, duly noted, got this. But I tucked it in his memory box because I knew I'd want to revisit the note with him someday. Like, hey, let's talk about what this letter means. But I had a baby. I had a brand new baby at home. Plus, I was recovering from major surgery, and there wasn't a lot of time to really dwell on the note. You got diapers and bottles and sleepless nights and all the things. So about 2 years after I had Ben, I was in this like fury of grief and nesting. Dot, my grandmother who wrote the letter, had recently passed away, and I was really, really pregnant with my second baby. Didn't know if it was a boy or girl, so I was very pregnant with this baby, and I was trying to get the nursery in order to move Ben into another room and get the nursery ready for Jack, who is Jack now. Thought Jack might have been Kate, but we got the second boy, and I couldn't be happier about that. Anyway, so I was in the nursery, nesting, grieving, and there was the memory box. And it was like instantly I knew. I was like, the letter. And I could not wait to get up and get that letter out of the box and revisit it. And I say that when I revisited this letter, it was timely because here I was, it seemed like, oh, Tara had everything, like everything in life that I had gotten advice on: career, husband, house, jobs, kids, everything. Check, check, check. All good. Everything great. I have an amazing husband. I had this kick ass career. Everything was great. I had a healthy baby, beautiful house. But I gotta tell you, on the inside, I felt like I was crumbling, and not just grief, not just from the grief of losing my grandmother, but really like I was so confused on who I was, who I came to be, and how in the absolute hell could I continue my corporate career, the trajectory of this career, which was, moving rapid. I loved it. I loved working. I loved climbing the corporate ladder. But how could I continue the corporate career with a lot of travel? How could I support my husband? He had a great career. How could I be a supportive wife to him and help him continue the trajectory of his career? How could I raise these two little babies, two under two, in exactly how I wanted to be the mother that I wanted to be? And then have like a sliver of time for myself. I mean, it seemed daunting, it seemed impossible. And I was just like, I don't know how I'm going to possibly do this. And then the other part of me was like, is this it? Like have I reached the pinnacle? And now I just coast till the end. Like, this is life. Checked all the boxes. Keep going. And there was the note, the be who you came to be note. Like, it was patiently waiting for me. And I got the letter out, read it, and it was just it was the exact advice I needed. This time I read it like she wrote it to me. Tara, be who you came to be. Love will guide you. It was this permission slip that I was looking for. I was kind of, I was like, is this it? Like, no, this isn't it. Be who you came to be. I read it and I reread it, and I kept emphasizing came to be who you came to be. And it was just this permission slip of like, gosh, who I was before I had kids, maybe that's not who I came to be. Like, maybe I could reinvent myself. Maybe I could change some things up. And I did just that. I completely changed up my career. The corporate ladder that I was climbing was exited immediately, and I switched things up. I didn't want to be traveling. I didn't want to be managing people. I went back to selling, and that led me into actually changing careers completely and getting into a different organization and doing social selling, where I had ultimate flexibility and freedom to be the mom that I wanted to be, to create and live the life that I desired and deserved. And it was the note. It was the be who you came to be note that gave me this permission to be authentic to who I was and to what stage I was at in my life. And I think this is where we get really fucked up in our lives, is that we think that we should have arrived. We think that we should have been somewhere, and then we just keep going. And I ask people, sometimes I ask them this. I say, what do you want in your life? And they always say they want to be happy, which I get it. We all want to be happy. We're going to talk about this later in another episode. But I ask them about who they are, and who they came to be and who they compare themselves against. And it's not uncommon that I hear this. They say, I often compare my life against what I thought I would be, who I thought I would be by now, what I would have accomplished by now. And that's wild. You cannot do that. Like, one, you write your story one day at a time. Authenticity is showing up daily and doing your best under whatever circumstances that you're at and honoring your values, who you are, and who you came to be. That is authenticity. Honoring your strengths and your weaknesses. It's knowing that you're never going to get it perfect. Things happen. And it's also about owning your journey of being who you came to be and knowing that you can change, you can evolve. If you don't like where you're at right now, change. I love the saying, like, you're not a tree. Like, if you don't like where you're at, move, change it, do something different. You can change. You can change your mind. You can change your hair. You can change your politics. You can change your ideas. You can change a lot of things in your life. And that's part of being authentic, is knowing that, like, who you were is not who you are today. And who you are today is not who you're going to be. And when you give yourself this permission slip that, like, I'm never going to have it figured out, I'm never going to arrive, but what I am going to do is honor where I'm at in my life, the choices I'm making, the things that I'm doing to be true to myself and to be who I came to be. So when we think about authenticity specifically, what does that mean? And I always, it really means, for me, it means knowing yourself and knowing that you're safe and that you feel good with who you are and that you can have grace when you give yourself grace when you make mistakes, when things don't go right. It's not trying to be something bigger than what you are or smaller than what you are. It's really owning who you are in any situation. One thing that I hear about people, that I hear people say is like, well, I couldn't show up authentically as exactly who I am to work. And I tell my boys this all the time. I'm like, "Hey guys, you got to know your audience. Like, at the heart of who you are is who you are." And yes, there are versions of us, right? I mean, I now if you know me, you'll know that, like, hey, the Tara I see on stage, the Tara I see at home, the Tara that I see on the street I get the same person. I'm not a moody person. You're gonna get the same version of me. Where those people that you're like, wow, what, the first time I met them, I got one version, and the second time I don't know who I was talking to. But it's like turning the volume up and down, you got to know your audience. And I tell my boys this all the time, of like, they'll do something in school. I'm like, hey, that's not the place for that. That's not the place for you to be that person in that time. And this is honoring our authenticity, but this is really the key to authenticity. It's honoring other people's authenticity. If you make someone feel uncomfortable, unsafe, um, bad about themselves, just insecure, whatever it might be, you are not honoring their authenticity, because you don't get to go around and just be this larger than life person that thinks that everyone else goes to the sidelines. No, it's about honoring each other's authenticity and walking hand in hand, knowing your audience, knowing how you show up, and being the best version of yourself in those different situations. Tara at a cocktail party is gonna be I'm gonna have my hair down a little bit more. Not in the sense of, like, I always wear my hair down, okay? Like, if you watch me long enough, my hair is pretty much only up if it's 100 degrees and have a ponytail, or I'm at the gym. Like, so not meaning like let my hair down like that, like let my hair down, meaning like I'm going to be a little breezier. But I got to tell you, this podcast I've designed to make it like Tara at a cocktail party, talking with friends, really, like, let's get to know each other, because this is when we can truly help each other be who you came to be. So authenticity is not about, being rambunctious or boisterous or over the top all the time. If that's part of you, who you are, great. Find your safe spaces to be that person in. Authenticity is about honoring who you are, who you came to be, and then showing up as the very best version of yourself in any given situation, and also giving other people the permission and safe space to show up authentically as who they are. There's enough space for all of us to be authentic. It's about honoring other people. Here's the thing, not everyone is going to be like you. Thank God, right? Can you imagine? I see on social media all these people posting about they don't like the way other people think. They don't like the way other people vote. I mean, just the amount of negative talking of I can't believe this. How could they? Just like shock and awe. And I'm like, hey, yo, knock knock. They didn't come to be you. It wouldn't be authentic for them to be like, well, I know that someone's listening, so I'm going to say everything they want me to say so it aligns with them and then makes them feel good about themselves. That's the other thing. Like if you don't agree with someone, it's not, it doesn't matter. Authenticity, someone else's authenticity has nothing to do with you. I always say, if you're comparing yourself to someone, start admiring them instead. When we compare, we ignite all kinds of self doubt and negative thoughts and everything. And if we admire, we're like, hey, you know what? Good for them for shining their light, for living true to their values. What does that say about them as a person? And they're living true to their values and doing it without insulting someone, without bringing someone down, without telling someone that they're stupid or wrong because they don't think like them or dress like them. Like, this is what authenticity is. And here's the thing, this is why this is a beautiful thing. If you think about the world, different people, different walks of life, different skin colors, different genders, different sexual orientations, different hair color, different preferences, like different. We're all different. The note didn't say, be just like so and so. Be who you came to be. So you have to honor your authenticity, and being truly authentic is honoring someone else's authenticity without judgment because they didn't come to be you. And when you can finally do that, when you can break free from someone else who doesn't think like you, that doesn't act like you, that doesn't believe like you, that is different from you, and you can honor their authenticity without judgment, that's when you truly know that you're being who you came to be. Because you know that who you came to be has nothing to do with them, nothing to do with their life, how they're showing up. And here's the thing, there is so much space and love and communities in this world for each and every single one of us to be who we came to be. Being who we came to be also means that we honor our weaknesses, that we acknowledge that we're not perfect, that we can admit when we're wrong. I say all the time, you're only human. You're only human. Human beings are flawed. We make mistakes. We mess up. And guess what? Those mistakes, those mess ups, those messy situations, it's helping you get to the next chapter, get to the next level, to be who you came to be. Honor it. Admit it. Be like, you know what? I'm so sorry. I messed up. I'm so sorry. I, you know, I made a mistake. I'm so sorry. I needed to learn a lesson. I didn't know. I didn't understand. My grandmother who wrote the note, she also said, it's only a mistake if it happens twice. The first time was a lesson that you needed to learn. You want to talk about being who you came to be, you're going to have to learn the lessons. You weren't put on earth being who you came to be, programmed to be perfect and to know exactly what it was. It's about discovery. And discovery is going to mean there's going to be ups and downs. There's going to be stuff that you're really good at and stuff that you find out you're really not good at. And there's going to be stuff that you think you love. And then things change in your life. And maybe you don't love them anymore. Maybe they're not fulfilling to you anymore. And you can move on. That's authenticity, is knowing that you're going to change. You're going to grow. You're going to evolve. You're not always going to win. You're not always going to end up on top. Things are not going to go as planned. And you got to honor it. You got to learn from it. And you don't beat yourself up about it. You keep moving. You put it in your pocket and say, lesson learned. Let's go. When Dot told me that it's only a mistake if it happens twice, what's really wild, I was in my 20s. It was a prelude to the be who you came to be note, because if you think about it, like, that's how you can be who you came to be, is know, like, hey, you're going to make mistakes, like, but it's not a mistake unless it happens more than once. Now, I will tell you, unfortunately, sometimes I've had to make the mistake or learn the lesson like 5 times. And then I finally was like, oh shit, yeah, that's right. I've done this before. Didn't work out then, didn't work out now. But that what she said was like a prelude to the be who you came to be. No, I have no idea. I was in my 20s. I'd gone to visit her. I was down on my luck about something. Something didn't work out in my life. And I was bummed about it. It was a 20-year-old bummer, something. I don't know. And she was so calm when she said it, and it stuck like glue. And she had all these little nuggets of wisdom. We'll be bringing them out throughout the show, and talking more about it. So that's what the goal of this entire podcast is. I had to kick off the show by telling you about the Be Who You Came to Be message note, how it inspired me. I sat I the note was in my life about 10 years before I decided to make it my life's work. So this isn't some like half-baked idea. Like, this being who you came to be is a proven rally call for your life. Being who you came to be. Your kids want you to be who you came to be. Your spouse, hopefully, wants you to be who you came to be. The world wants you to be who you came to be. I believe that every single one of you are here for purpose. You were put on this earth for purpose with special gifts, authenticities, and your entire life's mission is to discover that, is to chip away at that one day at a time. One day at a time, we be who we came to be. So it wasn't, for 10 years, I was sharing this message. I was telling people, be who you came to be. I saw how it helped me in my life, that permission slip that it gave me to mix up my career and to just give me grace as a mom. I use it obviously as like this guiding light in parenting and raising my children. Um, but I used it with friends, when they were at a crossroads of a life, that maybe they were trying to make a decision, or something was going on. And I was like, hey, be who you came to be. You know, you're going to get through this. It's shaping you. It's helping you. And in your heart of hearts, I know that you know exactly who you came to be, and the choices that you need to make, and the decisions that you need to do, and what you need to do to get yourself to be that person that you came to be. When we're at a moment in life where we don't feel good, we don't feel authentic, we don't feel safe, we don't feel, just something's off, it's because you are not honoring your authenticity. Something's changed in you. And I promise you, if you get to the heart of that, you can be who you came to be. I've seen this happen over and over and over. I would use it with work when we get new sales reps. We get someone new on the team. I'd be like, hey, you're here for a reason. Be who you came to be. What if you thought about your career like that? What if you thought about the organization that you're with? What if you showed up there as the best version of you, poured yourself in, and said, you know what? I'm going to be who I came to be here. What would that do for you and your job? What would that do for the organization? I talk to companies. I'm like, what if every single person showed up as the best version of them, and you gave them permission to be who they came to be, and they gave everyone else in the organization permission to be who they came to be, and we honored it because we get along. Like, if we honor someone else's authenticity, who they came to be, we can all get along. And I saw that when I empowered people to be who they came to be, it fundamentally changed the way they approached the most important things in their life, their work, their relationships, how they showed up, how they made people feel, how they made people feel. And so after 10 years, I was like, I got to make this my life's work. And, I got to tell you, what's wild is having a YouTube show, having a podcast is something I always wanted to do. I wasn't ready. And then this year it was just like, you know what? I'm ready. Like, I'm ready to do this. And this is it. We manifest things. We think about things. This version of us, this future version of us. One of the other, like, here's a really great green light that you're on the track to being who you came to be. Imposter syndrome, because probably you're dreaming really big for yourself. You want something, you want to be there, you want to do it. Like, you're like, damn, I want this, but you're like, but I suck. I'm not good enough. People are going to think I'm a fraud. I'm not there. I'm not ready to do it. Hey, you know what? You are literally visioning the future version of yourself, who you came to be. That's imposter syndrome. You are seeing a bigger, better, brighter up level of who you are. You got to keep going, and you got to keep moving. And eventually, you're going to hit that spot and you're going to be like, okay, I'm ready to go. And then you're going to keep going even more, and you're going to fall into another imposter syndrome trap, which is like, holy shit, there's another level for me. There's more. I mean, how cool is that? So yeah, I made it my life's work. I've been speaking on stages. I wrote the book. There's a new version of the book coming out. I started the show. I and why? Because I wholeheartedly believe in this message. with all my heart. At the heart of the pandemic, when my last event canceled, I remember going into my husband's office. He was working from home, obviously, and I just cried. I'm like, it's over. Like the gig's up. I how could I ever do this? Like I worked so hard to get it to where it is, and now everything's unraveled. It's back to the beginning, and I think I'm done. And he said, well, what are you gonna do? And I said, I don't know. Maybe I'll sell real estate, or like I don't know. Maybe I'll go back into sales. Like I was really good, made a lot of money, was really good. And he's like, really? And I was like, no, I can't. It's not who I am. It's not who I came to be anymore. I came to be this. I came to do this. I came with this message that was given to me to help inspire other people to be who they came to be. And it was at that rock bottom moment where there was no business, there was no stages, there was no shows, like there was nothing, that I knew this was my calling, because I couldn't see anything else for myself other than doing this. And so I'm so honored that you're with me on this journey. I am so excited about this show. We are going to have incredible people on the show, incredible people just like you and me. You know, you've heard me say it before, ordinary people do extraordinary things. So many times we think, "Oh, I need the best, highest, most important people in the world on my show that have, discovered Mars or landed a spaceship." Why am I talking about space? Climbed Mount Everest, are a professional athlete, like won a Nobel Peace Prize, survived a shark attack, something. Like I want, we want these like big names, like, oh yeah, that's who we learn from. No, we do learn from them. They have amazing stories, inspiring stories. But who inspires you the most? If I asked you right now, tell me who's had the biggest impact on your life. It's not a Fortune 500 executive or a professional athlete. It's probably an ordinary person who loves you, who believes in you, and most importantly, wants you to be who you came to be. And that's the goal of this show, is to help you chip away at your authenticity, help you own who you are, where you're at in your life. How do we get there? That's what authenticity is. And so every episode, we're going to chip away at it, and we're going to do it together. So I thought it was going to be fitting to end the first show with my favorite quote. If you've heard me speak, you know it. If you've read my book, you know about this quote. You know about this quote. Michelangelo. You know who Michelangelo is, right? Famous artist, sculptor, painted the Sistine Chapel. Sculptor, though, was what he loved doing. And he carved the statue of David, created the sculpture, the Statue of David, in Florence, Italy, is where it is now. I had the good fortune of seeing the statue over the summer. We took our kids to Italy, and I got to tell you, man, it is magnificent. It is larger than life, huge. Larger than life, huge. And the attention to detail, I mean, it's insane. It's just, I mean, it's honestly breathtaking. I could have spent hours just staring at it. And I'm one of those people that kind of goes fast through museums and stuff, like, yeah, seen it, check, sculpture, painting, whatever. No, this sculpture is, ugh, it's unbelievably breathtaking. Probably one of the most beautiful pieces of art, I believe, in the world. But when they asked Michelangelo, how did you carve the statue of David? Like, how did you do it? He was in his 20s, and he replied by saying this. He said, I saw the angel in the marble, and I carved until I set it free. I saw the angel in the marble, and I carved until I set it free. I mean, wow. He saw the angel in there. He just kept carving and carving and carving and chipping and seeing this vision that he had for what this was going to be. And just so you know, this is a big, grandioso, huge sculpture. He was in his 20s. I found out when I was in Italy this summer that this was the first piece of art that Michelangelo created from his heart. Back then, artists were commissioned. They would say, "Hey, sculpt me this, paint me this, do this," and they do a little work, and the commissioner would be like, change this a little more, that a little more, this. So it wasn't really. Yes, it was their art. They were doing it, but they were following instructions. They were creating art for someone else, not who the art they came to create, not the who they came to be. So this was Michelangelo's first shot at being who he came to be as a sculptor. And that forever changed art. He put his heart in it. He chipped away how he wanted to do it. He saw the angel in the marble and he carved until he set it free. And that sculpture specifically changed the trajectory of his entire career as an artist. What if you started chipping away at that angel? That angel that you came to be, not who someone else wants you to be, not who someone commissioned you to be, telling you to be a little more of this and a little more of that and a little less this. No, who cares? Who cares what anybody else thinks? They don't think like you. They didn't come to be you. You didn't come to be them. You didn't come to be more like someone else in your office, someone else in your family, someone else on the internet. You came to be you. And it's your mission, it's your responsibility on earth to chip away at that angel that's inside of you, to be the best version of you, to honor your authenticity, what you're good at, where you need to work, where you need to show up, and be who you came to be.